problem. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee for Monday, June 6th, 2016. I'm Paul Krikorian. I'm joined by my colleagues, Mr. Englander and Mr. Blumenfield, and we are ready to begin. Members, we have many closed session items. I would like to, before we get to closed session, I'd like to first propose items 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 18 as consent items for approval, unless you have questions or concerns about those matters.
Mr. Chair, pardon me. We have two technical corrections on item numbers 14 and 16.
Okay.
The technical correction on item number 14 is that the amount to be escheated is $959,706.56.
Okay.
And on item number 16, the claimant should read Aqua Aerobic Systems, Inc.
Okay, without objection, those recommendations are amended as stated. Any questions or concerns about approval of these items, members? Seeing none, items 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 18 are approved on consent. I'd like to next move to the year-end FSR, item 17, and take that item out of order. And before we have the report on the FSR, members, as we typically do, I'd like to call out any departmental issues that you might have in advance so that we can release other departmental representatives from sticking around. So any department-specific questions? I don't have any. Mr. Blumenfield, no? Mr. Englander? Please. LAPD for Mr. Englander? Okay. All right, going once, going twice. Thank you all very much. If you're not here, I very much appreciate your patience. Thank you. Except PD. Thank you all very much.
Yes, you can sit. Yes, you're welcome.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Maria Gutierrez with the City Administrative Officer. Today we're presenting the year FSR, which as you know is the last FSR of the fiscal year. Our current fiscal year began with a reserve fund of 8.18% and total reserves of 11%. Even after addressing anticipated liability expenditures and funding for homelessness initiatives earlier in the year, the reserve fund continues to be strong at 7.01%. Including the Budget Stabilization Fund, our total reserves are at 8.71%. Our current year revenue shortfall of $91 million, as highlighted at mid-year, has been reduced to approximately $76.4 million. Our year-end FSR identifies a remaining year-end expenditure deficit of $5.13 million. This amount is less than the $9.65 million that we had anticipated at mid-year as the amount remaining to be solved. Our shortfalls consist of petroleum and outside counsel related accounts, as funds from these accounts were previously swept and they must now be restored. That's approximately $2.7 million for these two accounts combined. There's a $1.1 million shortfall for the Bureau of Street Services due to payment preservation funding, which is in the unappropriated balance, which must be moved to the department's operating accounts. There's a need to correct reversions from the general fund to the sewer capital fund in the amount of approximately $690,000, and there's a remaining shortfall in the general city purposes fund payroll accounts of approximately $630,000. The recommendations in this FSR close the remaining expenditure deficit of $5.13 million and preserve the reserve fund to fully address a projected year-end shortfall of $76.4 million. In this FSR, we have also identified $10 million in savings from various departments and the unappropriated balance accounts in order to address city liabilities, such as including making a $5 million investment to pay down police banked overtime liabilities, as noted in Attachment 7. And we have also increased the 2016-17 budgetary shortfall account within the unappropriated balance by $5 million. Overall, this FSR maintains the city's reserve fund above 5% of the adopted general fund budget. Other recommendations included in this report consist of over $73 million in general fund reappropriations recommended for the next fiscal year. And this mainly consists of approximately $48 million for the liability resolution account. There are also approximately $43.04 million in prior year FMS and SMS encumbrances exempted from the general fund encumbrance policy. At this time, we would also like to recommend a technical correction to our report that has brought to our attention by the Controller's Office. And this is regarding recommendation number 33 of our report.
What page?
Page 18, number 33. We would like to strike A as its duplicative of B, and item B, we would like to amend the language to reference departmental salary appropriation accounts, and we're inserting the word salary. That's it. So we're available to answer any questions that you may have.
Any objection to the proposed change? Members, seeing none. It's so amended. All right. Questions, members? Mr. Englander?
Question for Laura Luna. Here. I just want to let you know that I've got some serious reservation over this. And I want to get some answers from you right away.
Okay.
I understand this is your last FSR and your retirement
Yep.
is now upon us. And I'm trying to figure out how we're going to survive without you and what your big plans are.
Oh, well, Anne-Marie Sauer is taking my place, so you'll survive quite well. She's very competent.
We'll see. Those are big shoes to fill.
Huh?
Those are big shoes to fill.
They
so-
are, yeah. But
Well,
traveling-
I wanted to wish you just a great, not only retirement, but thank you. And I really appreciate everything that you've done and been doing in your
Well, thank
dedicated career to this
Thank
city.
you very much.
And,
I appreciate that.
You will be missed,
Thank you.
and we'll keep you on speed.
Well done, Mr. Englander. You did that with your best gruff
Yes.
face, too.
Because
I was feeling a little intimidated.
that was it's what I'm used to.
Not for me. Not for me.
And that really was your question.
That was it.
Okay.
I also
very
live
good.
in this
Very-
district.
Very good. Mr. Blumenfield?
I think that question pretty much covers it.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
But
very
actually, before you go, though, I did just want to talk a little bit about the recommendation on the $10 million in additional revenues. We went through that part a little bit fast. I wasn't entirely clear that I followed your recommendation as to disposition of that $10 million.
So as part of this year-end, we identified approximately $10 million in combined departmental savings and savings in different accounts within the unappropriated balance. So of that $10 million, we are recommending that $5 million be appropriated to the police department's sworn overtime account. Of that $5 million, the expectation is that $1 million will be used to pay down part of the overtime banked in the current fiscal year, and $4 million will be reappropriated for next fiscal year to continue paying down the police overtime bank. So the remaining, so it's 1 million this year and 4 million for next year for police, or pay down of the police overtime bank.
Okay. And will we be able to use $4 million next year to pay down existing overtime obligations in the next fiscal year within the limitations of the collective bargaining agreement and otherwise?
We'll need to do a voluntary buy down like we did this fiscal year. We bought down, we have one more buy down, but we just shy of 5 million this year. So we'll do another one, or my successors will do another one next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I want to avoid is we already have a budget for police overtime. It's already set. I don't want to willy-nilly add to that overtime budget. I want to make sure that this is only being used to pay down our existing overtime obligations. Will that be the case? Am I correct that I see Mr. Sehan nodding?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we have consensus on that, because that's my goal in this.
Our practice this year was to do just that. We had 5 million this year. The first buy down, we had approximately $1 million left over. And we checked with the CAO about how we could use that funds, and they asked us to do another buy down, which we're doing right now.
Okay.
So it's not being mixed in with the 90 million that we have in our budget. We're
Okay.
keeping it separate.
So that extra $4 million will be segregated
Yes.
in the UB or otherwise, so it can only be used for the purpose of buying
Yeah.
down the bank.
Yes. Unless we,
Okay.
unless we.
All right.
Just
Yeah.
sort of
Mr.
to
Bloomfield?
understand the procedure here. Why are we doing it this way and not just doing it all in the next fiscal year? In terms of putting it in the UB and then reappropriating it that way? Why segment it first and then, just trying to understand our process on this. It's 6 one way, half dozen the other as far as our budget's concerned. But it strikes me as a little odd that we're doing it this way, and I'm sure there's a good reason.
Sure. Ben Sahel with the CAO. So the 1 million that was identified as for buy down this fiscal year, that's the maximum amount of a buy down that the chief has at his discretion that he can make per the MOU. And we're doing it this year to capture additional savings before some of the other MOU provisions kick in.
Why not just buy down 5 million?
Well, as was explained, the other $4 million has to be done on a voluntary basis. It has to be done by the agreement with the individuals that want their banks bought down a bit, and we don't think we can set up a program quickly. We know we can't set up a program quickly enough to do so in the current fiscal year.
The MOU has thresholds that you can do mandatory buy downs. Anything below that threshold, it has to be voluntary on the part of the officer.
I
Yeah.
had somehow assumed that there was a list of sort of in-waiting buy downs that are just a matter of having funding, but I guess it's not that.
No, it's not that simple.
Well, just as a follow-up to that, in the event that there isn't $4 million worth of voluntary agreements in the fiscal year, what's the disposition then?
The department would consult with the CAO to determine what they want us to do with those funds, which is what we did this year. And that would be a decision probably that would be made next fiscal year, depending on what the economic situation is.
And as if it could be just like we did this year, we had ended up appropriating additional dollars to the department to ensure that the banks did not increase. So that might be a situation we have to do next year as well. So that there's two approaches. We want to make sure that the banks get reduced, but that also we're not increasing those banks because we don't have enough cash overtime during the year. So that approach worked this year, and then we hope it's going to work next year as well.
Okay.
Just to sort of keep following up on it, why isn't there a list of, like a waiting list, so to speak, for buy downs? Wouldn't that be?
Well, I think the department has very precise records as to which individuals have certain number of hours in their banks, and I think what we're doing with this $1 million this fiscal year is we're reaching everybody that the chief at his discretion can reach per the MOU. And so that next year, because of the MOU, some of the thresholds are a bit higher, right? I mean, they increase on a schedule as far as how big a person's overtime bank can be.
Okay. Anything else on this, members? All right, then, if there's no objection, as the recommendations have been amended, the FSR is approved. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your service.
I did have that question on the please, but that's.
Yeah. All right, members, that completes our open session items. Mr. Williams, any cards?
There are no cards on any items.
All right, then, public comment on the closed session items and all other items is closed. Are there any general public comment cards?
No general public
General
comments.
public comment is closed. Oh, yeah. We do need to reconsider, members, item 11 for an amendment. Was there a technical amendment on that? It's an addition? Okay. So let's bring up item number 11 real quick.
Thank you. Ann Haley, City Attorney's Office, and we appreciate the consent, though there is just a procedural change we needed to make, and that's with regard to the identification of where the funds are coming from for the $800,000 transfer. Look, and I defer really to the money experts here, but it's just a technical correction to how the money will be appropriated.
Right.
Hi.
Janice Yu, CAO. So the recommendation number one, it originally said transfer $785,000 from the unappropriated balance outside council, including workers' compensation line item. That fund currently only has $85,000 in it, or $100,000, and 15 of that is already going under recommendation number 2. So we asked to revise recommendation number 1 to say transfer $785,000 from the following accounts in an unappropriated balance to the City Attorney Fund number 100, Department number 12, account number 009301. That's $85,000 from the unappropriated balance, Fund number 58, account number 580197, outside counsel including workers' compensation, and B, $700,000 from the unappropriated balance, Fund number 58, account number 580196, reserved for mid-year adjustments.
What was the last one? Reserve for what?
Mid-year adjustments. This is discussed in the financial status report, the year-end financial status report, and funding was made available from that account.
Okay. Any objection, members? No objection. The recommendation is amended, and that matter is approved. Thank you very much. Okay. That then brings us to closed session. Does the city attorney have any priority requests on the closed session items? Dion, anything that we need? All right. We are back in open session now. There being no other action before the committee, we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.